Welcome to Storytime with Pastor Steve. Today's story is He Didn't Mind Getting Wet. It's based on Acts chapter 8. It is written by Rick Gaugert and illustrated by Obat Studios. The copyright is 1973, just a couple years ago. He was Chancellor of Ethiopia, had charge of the money in that African land, getting ready to travel across desert sand to worship God in Jerusalem. How long he had planned. The chariot was covered with glittering gold, but rolling through dust made it seem old. With a driver busy driving and the guide busy guiding, the chancellor felt so all alone. They came upon the river Nile, stopped to rest and refresh a while. It must have been hot. Look at them getting into the water just to cool off. The chancellor wanted to go for a swim. He liked how the water washed the dust off of him. I don't mind getting wet, he told his guide with a grin, then back in the chariot for the rest of the ride to the gate of Jerusalem. At last they arrived. From all over the world many visitors came, but their reasons for coming were not all the same. Some came for selling, some came for talking, some came for praying, some came for looking. People, could God hear any person above the roar of all the people? The chancellor left Jerusalem, not much changed from when he came. He was still alone with his driver and guide and the prophet's book for reading along the dusty ride. Now Philip enters our story. What a cheerful young man, greeting all the travelers along the road he ran. He thought he heard a voice telling him to seek a man he didn't know whom God wanted him to meet. He came upon the chariot where the Ethiopian rode. He watched the traveler closely and saw he was reading a scroll. So he just passed by him, except the voice he heard say, "Go." "Do you understand?" Philip asked. "What it is you're reading?" "Hardly," said the chancellor, "unless I am told the meaning." Then he told the driver, "Halt! I want this man to join me." Philip climbed into the chariot, and the chancellor said, "Now show me." The lamb so quiet, killed for sacrifice? It is Jesus of Nazareth, the one we know as the Christ. What the prophet wrote about happened when Jesus died, but that was the way God worked it out for us to be on his side. But as Jesus arose, Easter morning so bright, which made his sad dying even making everything right, he said to his friends who believed in him, "Love people as neighbors when you're washed of your sin." It wasn't too much later till they came upon some water. The chancellor halted the chariot, and then he spoke to Philip. "I want to believe in this Jesus. I want a new life to live. I want to do what he tells me. I want to be able to give." "Can we use this water here? I know it seems strange, and yet, if God gives me the courage, I won't mind getting wet." Then into the water and out of it again, the Chancellor of Ethiopia became a new man. and Philip, who had baptized him, was gone. But the chancellor didn't feel lonely as he continued on his way. He knew that God had touched him on this, his baptism day. And even while reading the prophet, he thought he was hearing God say, like Jesus and the disciples, you have become a son. Jesus brought you together. Washing made all of you one. What a great story of Philip meeting the Ethiopian, but more importantly than Philip meeting the Ethiopian was that God met the Ethiopian and knew that he needed to be forgiven. Because just like all people, the Ethiopian and Philip and the guide and the driver, we're all sinners. And we need to be forgiven. We need to be saved. And Jesus came to suffer and die so that we would receive the gift of forgiveness. And that forgiveness is for all people. We are supposed to live a new life. We are supposed to be his people. And that starts with us being forgiven and then giving forgiveness, granting forgiveness to those who have done things wrong to us. God desires for us to love all people and to share his love with everyone. May God guide us and teach us to love one another and to bring hope through changed lives through baptism. May God bless you today.